anxiety about the unknown.
I could hear the steps.
He had all
walking up
black
the
eyes.
stairs.
There was no
All of a sudden,
light
this
in
huge
his eyes.
object with lights was on top
And it
of
made
us.
no sound.
The fear. Yes, this happened.
So I remember after seeing that horrifying scene with my eyes fixed on the mural, I felt that I didn't want to see more, but I couldn't stop doing it, as if something made me have to scrutinize every inch of that thing.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Yes, This Happened. Today, Gerardo, who lived through the 1985 Mexico City earthquake, brings us his unexplainable experience shortly after this terrible tragedy. Gerardo's family's bookstore suffered irreparable material damage in the earthquake, and our story begins when he, his brother, and his father were looking for another location to reopen their beloved bookstore.
It still felt sad. Our soul and senses were still numb from the pain that the city still felt. And, well, there we were looking at some way to find a new place for the bookstore, and we went to Avenida Juárez, number 20, downtown, across from Palacio de Bellas Artes. And it was like 7 o'clock in the afternoon, more or less. It was already dark. And when we arrived at the entrance, there was a long, long corridor. At least I felt it very long at the age. I was about to turn 12 years old. And I remember that the place had very little lighting. Very little lighting. It was very dim. It had green mosaic walls. I remember that you felt the humidity. You felt cold. You could also hear like the echo a lot, as if the echo combined with the cold. I felt as if we were entering some catacombs, and if it weren't for the fact that there was an elevator there that made that ping, like ping sound every so often, you would feel that you were really entering a cave. So when we entered, it was something strange because there was a chain that made a horrible noise when you opened it. And my dad and the owner of the building went to the electrical panel where the breakers were, and I just suddenly heard like a puck, puck, boom, like an explosion almost. And in that last hit, apparently, there was some kind of short circuit, and it left the whole place in almost complete darkness. And I was like, wow, everything felt gloomy, like something ugly. Right? So that place had been a city bar, literally. It used to be a city bar. In the very center of it, there was a small dance floor where barely 5 or 6 people could fit. It was all dark. Everything felt old, a rancid smell. It still smelled like a little bit like vomit mixed with old cigarette, like vinegar. The whole place looked just ugly. But I remember, all that was nothing compared to when I glanced over to my right side and towards the back of the place, and there was a painting, a mural that covered the entire wall. It was huge, and it depicted like a voodoo ritual, and it was like, hey, caray, at the moment I saw it.
The huge mural in the shadows, in that dark room, shocks Gerardo due to its obviously sinister symbolism.
There was a gigantic figure of a black woman who was showing her enormous pointy breasts there in the air. She was like holding a type of obsidian chalice that was full of blood, which was like spilling on the heads of 3 black dwarfs. They were kneeling and tied up. They were like only dressed in white Bermudas, splashed with some blood. And the expression of the priestess in this depiction while holding the chalice and dripping the blood, it was something strange. It was like an ecstasy, but at the same time, it was like with a hint of cruelty. The eyes were empty, but instead of being white, it was like a cloudy yellow, like when you have a rotten egg, and in the center of the yolk, There's a little blood, like veins. That's how her eyes looked, and she was surrounded by an environment like full of smoke with lit candles and everything, like some sort of rite or ceremony. In the center there was a gigantic stone head, which I think represented some kind of demon. It had red, penetrating eyes. I don't know. I feel that no matter how much I wanted to escape, it was one of those paintings that wherever you are, it's watching you, it's looking at you. And you go to one side and you feel he sees you, and you go to the other side and it's also looking at you. It also had some crows, like these big ones, that also had blood on their beaks, and in the floor there were remains of humans and animals, and with the faces of pleading and terror, something horrible. Finally, on the right side, there was this classic voodoo figure of the Samadhi male, this human figure that is like a big, beefy African man that has a black top hat with a skull in the center of the hat. The guy had like his face painted white, but the eyes were dark black. And also the nose, almost as if they had tried to make a skull on his face. You know, he was dressed elegantly in a black jacket with stripes, but he also had like purple lapels. He had a big cigar in his hand, and he had a diabolical, horrifying smile, with that look like he's looking the other way, but that at any moment he could turn and see you. I got the feeling it gave out that he was about to turn and look at you. The teeth were not normal teeth, they had sharp edges. And so around them there was a group of like natives, as if in a trance, playing the drums with their eyes completely blank, completely white, but with wicked smiles, as if they were performing a wicked ceremony or something.
Yes, this happened.
Gerardo is in a trance looking at the mural in that dark establishment for the first time. The horrible scenes depicted in it call to him in a visceral way.
So I remember after seeing that horrifying scene with my eyes fixed on the mural, I felt that I didn't want to see more, but I couldn't stop doing it, as if something made me have to scrutinize every inch of that thing. That's why I remember so much. And as I kept watching, I almost felt like I was going into a trance, and that's when my brother pulled me, and I felt like he pulled me out of it, and he said, "This is horrible, man, this is like evil." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So we left, and right as we got in the car, we told my dad, "You know what, Dad, this cannot be the place." And my father, more pragmatic than anything, said, No, this is what we can afford, and it's enough for me, and it's a good place, and we are going to do it." So I thought, I just have to be brave. I asked him to fix the lights, and I knew I had to live with the decision of my father.
During the next 2 or 3 days, Gerardo doesn't stop thinking about the sensations that mural causes him, and he's determined to get rid of it. 2 days later, he returns with his brother and father to do the job.
So a couple of days later, with the lights working, I found myself again in front of the mural, and I thought, I have to get rid of this thing. I have to take it out. So I grabbed a screwdriver and the hammer, and I start hitting it very hard, very, very hard. And then I realized that what's happening is that, well, nothing's happening. It's just like getting slightly scratched. Nothing came out. So I kept hitting and hitting the screwdriver, and it would just slip most of the times. But a smell like vinegar began to come out. My brother didn't even come close. He didn't even want to be there. And my dad, I guess, he saw my desperation and disdain for that mural and said, just stop. I'll get your Uncle Pedro. He's a priest. And have him come and bless the place. And I thought, Yeah, right, like, what's the use anyway? But anyway, yeah, whatever. Besides, my father was not Catholic at all. And I think that something did affect him because he really spoke to my uncle to go bless the establishment. He asked him to go. And about 3 days later, my uncle arrived with holy water. He began to bless the place. He began with the boxes. He went to where the bookshelves were, and before leaving, at the very end, he stands in front of the mural. There is absolute silence, and we were all in front of this horrible, diabolical painting. So he raises his hand, he splashes some holy water on the mural, and I just closed my eyes, and I was ready to listen to something like the sound of a monstrosity burning, like this, like in the movies, I guess, too many movies, with the holy water. But no, nothing happened. There were no cries of pain, no smoke, nothing. The moment seemed totally anticlimactic. So when the blessing ended, something had changed. Something had happened. You could feel something different. Then immediately I grabbed and went for my screwdriver, for my hammer, and I said, this time I'm gonna take it out because I'm gonna take it out. So when I get closer, I realized that the very corner on the low right side, just below the mural, had detached. That right part, that little corner, and I said, well, this is strange. And then I grabbed it, I grabbed the little corner, and I started to pull it up. And it began to detach with this incredible ease that it starts to come like a Post-it almost, like boom. I mean, this is the same mural that 3 days ago I had personally hit using a screwdriver and hitting the screwdriver with a hammer for an hour against it. And incredibly, after a blessing, that mural that wouldn't come out, that there was no way to destroy or damage, I was able to remove it as if it were a sheet of a notebook. I swear that I remember, and it gives me chills, thinking that something was there, that there was something there, that the holy water had an effect. And to date, I have not found any type of scientific or logical explanation of how this happened. The only thing I know is that I lived it. It happened to me firsthand, and I will never forget it ever, because it escapes reason or what the senses expect. The truth is that for me, it is one of those moments where you realize that there is something beyond that we cannot normally perceive as human beings.
Did the mural have any supernatural powers? Could the images on it really cause whoever looked at it to go into a trance? Why was it that after the blessing, the mural could be removed so easily? We will never know for sure. But Gerardo's testimony remains with us as proof of what could be paranormal events that transcended their dimension to meet us at ours. What do you think? On the next episode of Yes, This Happened. A new relationship between two young people brings more surprises than the boyfriend expected.
I had a girlfriend 25 years ago who had a real deep connection to all of the supernatural. And on one occasion, she invited me and some friends over to her house. And I had been over to her house before, but I'd never really had thought anything of it. She had never mentioned anything. But on this occasion, on this party that she had, little get-together she had, me and the group of friends were just hanging out and talking outside, and she just blurts out, "Hey, do you guys want to feel a spirit?" We're like, "What? What do you mean by that?" She's all, "Has anybody here ever encountered a ghost or a spirit of any sort?"
His new girlfriend has skills that very few people seem to have, and the experiences that he goes through with her are truly chilling.
And she says, okay, everybody get ready because it's coming. And we're like, okay, sure. And what happened next was literally mind-boggling because it was so weird, like nothing I had ever experienced before. So my girlfriend says, the spirit is coming, I can feel it. And she goes on to explain what you guys are going to feel is this really cold feeling within yourself. And I'm thinking to myself, is she saying that I'm going to feel like an air conditioner turn on or something like that? But what she said was a feeling that we were going to feel on the inside. And what we all felt was this coldness literally traveled through us at that moment.
What starts out as simple curiosity suddenly becomes disturbing.
And looking at the stars really calmly, and she says, do you remember how that spirit or that ghost went through you the other day? She's all, have I told you that I see dead people? I'm like the sixth sense? And she's all, yeah, like the sixth sense. I'm like, okay, so why are you telling me this? She's all, well, do you want to experience that? I'm like, you sure? You know, thinking, what in the world am I going to experience?
An encounter that he will never, ever forget.
So she says, we have to wait until 4 a.m. because that's when they come out. I'm like, okay, 4 a.m., you know, that doesn't sound weird to me. But we end up waiting till 4 a.m. So at 4 a.m., my girlfriend says, okay, but you're really ready to see this, right? And it wasn't even 4 a.m. I think it was like 5 minutes till 4 a.m., if I remember correctly, because she said exactly at 4 a.m. we have to be at this intersection. And I remember very clearly, we go down the hill, and the whole time she's telling me, you're sure you're ready to see this, right? You're sure you're ready to see this. And she doesn't tell me what I'm going to see. She just keeps saying, you're sure you want to see this? So she says, as soon as we turn the corner here at 4 a.m., you're going to see something.
On the next episode of Yes, This Happened.